It is about how can we support the student across the curriculum for the whole school. How can we address the question that's being raised over and over again about cross-curricular support?
The literacy is not just an English department's responsibility, it is now the responsibility of every teacher.
Teachers should develop pupils' reading and writing in all subjects to support the acquisition of knowledge. So the students are sitting there and thinking, that's what that word means, I know what it is, I'm with the teacher. But what about the student who has a reading age below 12 or 13?
You can no longer depend on your English department to teach children how to read and write. You can no longer depend on your SEN department to extract students and teach them to read and write. It is the responsibility of every single class teacher to help the children to understand the words that you're putting in front of them in your lessons. And these things are now going to be judged by Ofsted. These things are going to be part of the appraisal system in schools, and of course it impacts on performance management and it impacts on pay. So it's very, very important that every single teacher in school is aware of this, because it is new and it has changed. But we're there talking about children who perhaps have a reading age of 10 or lower. Those children are extracted, they're taught in nurture groups, they have small specialised lessons teaching them to read and write. And what Joanna is interested in and an expert in is how to teach those children who perhaps have a reading age of 10 to 14, and so they are not getting any specialist help in the school, they're not extracted for any specialist lessons, they're just thrown into mainstream classes, but they still cannot access the reading age 15 that they need in order to do well in their lessons. We are now, of course, moving to linear exams, 100% exam for the current year 9 when they get to year 11. They will be doing 100% exam. Most secondary school textbooks have a reading age of 9.6 or higher. GCSE exam papers require a reading age of 15 or higher.
All these questions about the reading ages and the spelling ages have been looked at by Oxford University, and they have said, is there anything out there that's supporting the subject teacher and ultimately the student? I believe very strongly that subject-specific teachers should be allowed to be subject-specific teachers. The reality is that we have got students in front of us with a reading difficulty. It's our job as teachers to teach what the words mean, but it would be very nice if they were able to read. So the people who write the exam papers, they're writing it for an hour and a half paper, but you have to be able to think and write at a speed in excess of 16 words a minute. So first of all, we look straight into a science lesson. So Mr. Einstein is going to be teaching science. There's a selection of topics available to him. He's working with his students. How does he support literacy? Here are the answers to his support for literacy. There are 4 buttons here. The first button will show you what levels all his students are at in terms of phonics. And what we have here, topic words down this side, getting progressively harder according to phonics. Here are the names of the students. The second button is where I find the most exciting. Every single student in his class has differentiated sheets available to him.
What this is doing is it is appreciating the fact that there are some students in classes who are unable to read those words or unable to read some of those words. So if you give them a list of 30 words, there might be 15 of them that they can't read and they will just give up, they won't bother.
The third green button is about the legibility and the thinking, writing speed. But if I walked into a class and knew that there were 2 or 3 students with a specific legibility issue, then I would be able to do something about that. So it's a trigger. The fourth green button, Mr. Einstein and all the teachers, how do they learn and know about phonics? Well, the answer is it's here on the screen on that fourth green button. On the left-hand side is a basic explanation for the teacher who isn't a phonics specialist. And each individual student is logged as well. So every time any student is given support, the student is logged and the support is there.